there's so much of your life that is not in public knowledge naturally because it's your professional side that people know.
Abba had a public school, English public school education himself.
You had to ace your A levels in a year, unlike other people.
I did, yes. I did.
What was that like?
Intense and hard.
So all that period in which you weren't really practicing, and then suddenly you decided no other law school but Harvard Law.
The law school's attention was that my background was diverse. I was going to bring to the classroom a perspective that kids in their mid-20s or early 20s were not going to bring. I have to say I felt a lot more intimidated than I do as a more experienced woman professional. Litigation in Pakistan is not exactly built for women. It can be unwelcoming. Integrity and honesty, punctuality. I have to say that working with the government and as a law officer, I do pro bono appeals.
And I think almost everyone is dreading that air quality issue and smog issue that's just about to descend in Lahore. So essentially they wooed you to become their representative here. Very lucky for them. Today on Context with Aasiya Riaz, I'm joined by Asma Hamid, a distinguished lawyer, Harvard Law graduate, and currently the Honorary Consul General of Netherlands in Lahore. The reason why I requested you, Asma, to sit down with me is not just to talk about your law career, which of course is very amazing, but also to talk about what your journey has been like, what your education and early years have been like, when you decided to open your own law firm, how you look at mentorship of young people in your own law career, how you see your role as a trailblazing woman. I mean, what does it mean? What resilience looks like to you? What leadership looks like to you? What purpose looks like to you as a woman who's succeeding in Pakistan on her own terms. So thank you very much. I must also thank you twice because you're the first female who's a guest on my program, and I'm really grateful for your time. Let's get right into it, Asma. I just wanted to ask you, I think that before we come to where you are today, what kind of childhood did you have? Do you consider yourself something like a dreamer or a very focused person? You kind of knew from very early on what you wanted to be?
Thank you, Aasiya. It's really an honor and privilege to be here on your show, and for all the reasons that you thought of interviewing me, and I've given a lot of thought to all those things because I think I tend, not to think of myself as a woman in law or a woman doing certain things, but a kind of a professional, a professional approaching all the things and challenges ahead, etc. So one does stop and reflect when someone asks you to, but not all the time, if you see what I mean. So this was a good opportunity. As far as my childhood is concerned and what the focus was then, we had a really lovely, sort of very loving set of parents, grandparents. I was fortunate enough to have great-grandparents alive for a long time, major part of my childhood. And it was something that gave me a lot of confidence. I don't think that there was ever a very much discussion on what you're going to be, except that there was a lot of attention given to, what your, inculcating a good reading habit, a lot of general knowledge quizzes. We had long drives on which my parents would play a lot of word games and guessing games and question and answer games and things like that. So there was a lot of intellectual stimulation as well, which is not to say that there wasn't a lot of fun in games. Of course there was. So all in all, I think that it laid a very good foundation for going ahead with a lot of confidence and approaching whatever it was that I was going to do with an understanding that it was achievable. Whatever you set out to do was achievable. As far as my choice of legal profession was concerned, my father was definitely an inspiration for that.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you there. So when you were growing up, he'd already left his public service days and switched to law, or you remember that transition that he made?
I do remember that. I do remember him, of course, being a civil servant very, very early in my life, and living in government houses early in the day, and then his change to private practice and going to his earliest Turner Road office and sort of scribbling on the papers and playing on the typewriter and things like that. So he made that transition very early in my life, and then of course I remember him being an extremely hardworking, committed lawyer throughout all my formative years. He was very much in the legal profession. So that's what one saw and what one heard growing up all the time was discussion on the law.
So that was a very easy choice then, a successful lawyer leading the way, and your sister, elder sister, also chose law as a profession.
That's right.
Or all three of you
in fact, all three of us chose law.
Okay.
So it was definitely inspiring enough, and a kind of natural choice. My uncle was also trained as a lawyer, Asma Hamid Saab, and so all three of us sisters followed in those footsteps.
Overwhelming influence of the family in the legal profession.
Yeah. And they were all professionals, really. Everybody in the family. Even my great-grandmother was a magistrate in her day. She was an honorary magistrate.
Oh, wow.
Back in her time. So I think it was very much a family tradition.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so much of your life that is not in public knowledge naturally, because it's your professional side that people know. So whatever glimpses I could get of anything personal about you has really been what I looked at Shahid Hamid Saab's book Treasured Memories, when he mentions you and his other daughters, and he's talked about his education. Of course, he's talked about your education, that for high school all three of you went overseas, and you and Aisha both went to Headington.
That's right, yes.
Yeah,
all three of us did, actually.
Oh, okay.
Abba had a public school, English public school education himself. So he and my mother were very keen that all three of us should have that experience. And at that time, at least with my elder sister and I, at that stage, there was no A-levels for girls. There was no institution that offered A-levels in Lahore.
Okay.
So I think it was an easy choice as well, that we wanted to pursue A-levels, and he didn't want us to go straight into a college over here. So we went abroad, and we went to a school near Oxford in a town called Headington, and we were there for a couple of years.
You had to ace your A-levels in a year, unlike other people.
I did, yes. I did
What was that like?
Intense and hard, but I did it, and I'm glad that I did. And then I came back and I joined college over here, and I went on immediately to law school. There was no gap. So
you actually got your law degree in Lahore.
I did.
And then you went on to Harvard.
Well, not till much later, because I, had a very early start to family life as well. I was a young mother, and when my children were young, I was completely devoted to them, and I didn't start practice till later. So I kept up with the profession. My father kept me up to date with sending me propositions to research, and every time that I was here, I practiced some in banking cases that he was working on, different kinds of things that kept me in touch with the profession. But when my children were young, I wasn't a full-time practicing lawyer, and it wasn't actually till my elder son went to college that I also decided that I would apply.
Pretty much alongside that time.
Yes,
so what was the gap like in active law practice? When did you go back to it after your degree?
So when I went to law school, I applied abroad, got in, and I did that 1 year very intense kind of an LLM, because at an American university they club you with all the JDs, and they make no distinction between who's an international LLM student and who the JDs are. So it was very much the Socratic type of method of teaching. It was a very, very intense year. I was specializing in constitutional law. I was writing my thesis in an area of constitutional law. So going back into academics was very challenging. And when I came back, I started practice in earnest, what I call practice in earnest, and never looked back. So the last 15 or 20 years have been very much immersed in practice, first private practice, and then of course 4 years as a law officer with the Office of the Advocate General in Punjab, and then into private practice again, and then I founded my own chambers about 5 years ago.
Asma, if I just go back to that transitional period, many people, especially women, because of the kind of pressure that unspoken pressure, so to speak, that women generally tend to have, when you enter into family life, you have children. More often than not, you see that degrees kind of take a back seat and profession takes a back seat. So with those kind of transitions, when did you know for sure that, once your children have left your nest, you must return? When did you know that for sure?
I think there was a part of me that was always wanting to not break boundaries, but explore boundaries, push them back a little bit, see what I was capable of. And because I'd chosen law as a profession, of course, that was an easy choice that I would be working as a lawyer. And the more I worked, I think the very, very initial stages of when I worked, when I went to court and I started litigation, I think that the kind of, in a manner of speaking, the penny dropped that this is what I'm cut out to be. I have to say that when I was at law school, I did a course in litigation, and my professor was a practicing litigator, which is not common in law schools for practicing litigators to be coming and teaching litigation courses. But it was an amazing workshop, and she told me that you're born to do this, and this is what I hope that you're going to go back and continue doing. So that was the first kind of hint that I took, that, okay, maybe this is something that I should explore further. And so I think when I started out and I started going, in fact, to Sindh High Court, because we were in Karachi at the time, I enjoyed it so much, and I thought I'm really never going to look back. This is what I want to do.
So all that period in which you weren't really practicing, and then suddenly you decided no other law school but Harvard Law. How did you get in? That's like that's the stuff dreams are made of.
I have to say, I think that when I applied and you required GRE and everything, so I had to go back to actually like maths tuition and doing maths courses and even English courses and everything. So it was a very intense time. Studied very hard, passed those, got a decent grade, then applied, and I worked very, very hard on my personal statement. And I don't know, maybe this is right or not, but I think what probably kind of helped, maybe got their attention, the law school's attention, was that my background was diverse. I was going to bring to the classroom a perspective that kids in their mid-20s or early 20s were not going to bring. So I was significantly older than them. And I had taught law in schools, I had taught English and history to middle school children. I had never stopped working really, wherever we were. And so I had worked in a mother-child NGO in Balochistan. I had done a lot of diverse things. I had lived in rural Sindh. I had a lot of that behind me, and I wrote my personal statement with the perspective that I have a very diverse background. But simultaneously, I had never left, working in the law with a lens towards all the other aspects that I was working on. And so I had been making those connections between law, human rights, in the health sector, in the education sector, in the development sector, etc. So I guess that's
very enriched. Very enriched background. So when you were at Harvard Law, was there ever any this feeling that should I perhaps stay back in Boston and practice here, and sort of maybe law experience would be completely and entirely different than Pakistani? I mean, of course, we practice a different type of law in both countries. So was there ever any desire to?
Not really, both for personal reasons and also for professional reasons. I really wanted to come back, and I'd gotten a flavor of what it was like to practice here, and I was very keen to come back and contribute over here, both to jurisprudence, to just the practice of law. And at that time, I have to say, I felt a lot more intimidated than I do as a more experienced woman professional. I remember going to court in the early days and being much more conscious of myself, my appearance, my reception in the court, etc. And when I came back more empowered and more educated and more experienced, it was a different feeling, and I'm very glad that I did, because I was more confident. I was entering a space that was not always easy. Litigation in Pakistan is not exactly built for women. It can be unwelcoming, but I felt much more confident. And I think especially my stint as a law officer really was the best experience, because that gave me an enormous insight into how government departments work, how courts work, what it feels like to be in a living, breathing courtroom, the human aspect involved in law, etc. So we just took it from there.
Asma, you've had you've been in a position in which you've been able to compare the education that you got here, the law education in Pakistan, and then the LLM that you got at Harvard Law. Do you think that the law education that we're giving to young professionals here in Pakistan, male and female, is it adequately preparing them for actual or literal daily challenges of practicing law?
Aasiya, two things. I don't think it's fair to compare the education I had then.
Yes. No, I understand, but because you went through both.
Yeah. With the LLM then, because I think that was very different. I think there was quite a lot wanting in the legal education I had at that time, and it was very, very different and very kind of, a lot of it I studied for remotely. I wouldn't really compare that. I think now with the kind of education that we are giving in the really top law schools has improved a lot, but there's a lot of reforms that need to be done. I see that when graduates of law school come and work in the chambers over here, if they've done a foreign degree and they haven't done the local degree, there's obviously a chunk of laws that they really haven't studied, which are the procedural and the evidence laws related to our system. And so a lot of it is learned then on
the ground.
On the ground and on the go, which is not ideal. On the other hand, they have been through more analytical, critical thinking skills that we honestly didn't get in law school back in the day. So there's improvement, and I see now that, for example, the big top law schools have also started offering litigation workshops, smaller, more condensed, practical, what they used to call clinics in law school abroad. And that, I think, is probably the most useful thing that they could do, because very often graduates will come with an immaculate kind of CV, really impressive CV, papers that they have written, but then when you take them to court, it's a new kind of awakening that what is this? There's no connect. So I think taking them through all those will be very useful.
Asma, you of course have a law firm of your own now, and you've been practicing in different. We were just talking off camera about some of the areas that you're working on. Of course, the constitutional law is there, corporate law is there. Is there a set criteria on which you hire your associates? Are they mostly locally educated, or a law degree from overseas is actually a plus point? And do they have to go through a long period of training before they can really be useful in that profession?
It depends. Like when we hire, we either lay down the criteria. Do we want a fresh graduate? Are we looking for interns? I mean, now there are. I look for both. I hire both interns, associates, research associates, and someone who can be in between. So it depends if you're hiring someone who is just about 2 to 3 years work experience, or are they 6 to 7 years work experience. They tend to be all now locally educated, but we have applicants who have been foreign educated as well. And the criteria, at least that I ask them to have, is integrity and honesty, punctuality, the ability to meet deadlines, the the curiosity to grow and be up to challenges. And I always tell them there are no, there's no timings over here. If we need something, this is litigation. We need a proposition researched. You just have to do the research no matter what, however long it takes, and deliver. So I think that in the legal profession, there's a lot of complaint, like they're not adequately remunerated, the remuneration is not adequate and all. We've had all that debate as well. And I think that there's a lot of scope for improvement in chambers, the criteria they use, the kind of, pay scales that they have, etc. But honestly, on the side of the associates as well, you have to have that set of skills that you're bringing that will be appropriate for the slot that you're coming in. And it's essential.
And the desire to learn and improve.
The desire to learn.
Yeah,
the desire to learn. It's really not comparable to joining a multinational or a medical practice or something. It has its own quirks, and I think graduates and associates should come in knowing what they're facing.
Asma, you've worked a lot with government. Of course, some of the cases that you take now, but you were in the Advocate General position yourself, the first female at that. And you, of course, worked a lot with the private sector as well. I know you're perhaps not the most fair question to ask you. What's the most enriching experience?
Out of all the
cases? Whether it's government, whether it's it's corporate sector, whether it's litigation with like any other branch, what's your true passion?
I have to say that working with the government and as a law officer representing the state. I always say representing the state because in my mind that's who I was representing and never a government per se.
Yeah, true. Naturally,
I think that was the most, if you're asking me in terms of enrichment, that was it, because I always felt like we were doing something for the greater good. And it was never anyone's victory as such. I mean, if a citizen got his rights, her rights, that was fulfilling as well, that you managed to assist the court rather than defeat someone. And that was a very important aspect of being a law officer, because what you're doing is really assisting the court to come to a fair decision. It was very, very fulfilling to represent the state in cases of state land, in revenue, etc. Because again, when we did come out, with a favorable decision, it was in, for example, in big state land cases, you were, after all, getting land back from hands that it shouldn't have been in. That was a state resource. When we win tax cases, you're collecting revenue for the public exchequer. So these are very enriching experiences.
The reach and I think you feel when you're working in that position that the reform and the change is so much broader and so much palpable and so much evident than when you work in another field.
It increased my respect for public institutions because it touches so many lives in one case, in one go. Because behind every file there's not just a person but a society, an ecosystem, etc. So you're working for all that when you've got a brief in your hand. But on the private side as well, I think that, so I do a lot of high stakes tax cases, but I also do some criminal work. A lot of people don't know that, but I do pro bono appeals. And recently, for example, we had a case, talking about fulfilling experiences, we managed to secure an acquittal for someone who had been, wrongfully accused in a murder case and been arrested and jailed for 18 years. So there are cases like that as well that, one finds very fulfilling, where there's a liberty and life and liberty of a person involved. So it's on different scales altogether. You can be fighting for billions of rupees in a revenue case, and then there is, that one person whose life is in your hands.
I think it'll be unfair if I don't ask you about what general public's perception of law or the system of our justice is. How the world looks at, or the ordinary people look at, how people just spend their entire life looking for the decision of an issue to come by. If you and I can look at numbers of the pendency of cases that we have before our courts, but I mean that's another way of looking at it. But if you look at it from people's perspective, the amount of time that it takes for a case to be resolved is huge. So, as a professional, you're right in the middle of it. I'm sure you talk about this, or you think about this quite a bit. Whether or not reform is practically at your agenda right now, but what is it that we need to change in this country to, for ordinary people to be able to get swift and easy justice? I mean, that perhaps is the largest issue that stares you in the face.
No, there's been a lot of, as you know, talk about and reforms with access to justice in mind. At institutional level, we've sought help from international bodies, and we've had trainings in alternative dispute resolution, of which there's been a lot of focus on. But nothing changes much.
I mean, we have a conversation on justice reforms now and then, but
that's true. And I think it'll take time, as everything does. I don't think there's an easy fix, because the problem has become pretty chronic. So it's not always easy to have a quick fix for a chronic problem. But I think that there is, light at the end of the tunnel, in that there is a goal now towards reducing the pendency. How the public perceives it is, of course, negatively. There's always going to be
for instance, people say that with such a high pendency of cases and with such delays in the delivery of justice, why are we still sticking to an old institution of 2 months break in the judiciary, higher judiciary? Why should you've, I'm sure, heard criticism that comes out in media and social media about that. So some of those things are perhaps quite easily changeable. Is there a debate about that in the legal fraternity?
I think there's always criticism, and yes, there is of course very vocal criticism about that. But I think that breaks and summer vacations and winter vacations are part of an institution's kind of very long practice, and courts are never really shut completely. I mean, there's a roster that's going all the time, and everyone is on that system. So perhaps it's not completely fair to suggest that everyone should be working all the time. But I know that, for example, we had cases being fixed throughout the summer. So it's not as if courts had shut down completely. Can they improve their system and their disposal, etc.? From what I see, there is a huge effort towards that. But like you said, that results are not as hopeful as they should be. And I think that automation, digitization, which is what seems to be that they're working very hard towards, I hope that will start to deliver results, because now there's a lot of low-hanging fruit about what you can do through the help of technology. And I think that's where the answer lies. I think AI, with the help of AI and with all this automation, perhaps, and with the advent of ADR as well, more and more people are getting trained for mediation, arbitration, conciliation, etc. And I hope that these centers will help to alleviate some of that and distribute that pendency to institutions other than the courts, if they are resolvable through one of these means of ADR. That's the best I can hope for.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Asma, one more question about your legal experience and your own expertise of working in that. You've done quite a bit of cases in environmental law as well. And as a Lahori, we're sitting in Lahore while we're discussing this, and I think almost everyone is dreading that air quality issue and smog issue that's just about to descend in Lahore. What do you feel? How are we able to deal with that? Is there enough sort of governmental focus on it? Is there enough industry focus on it? Is there something that justice system can come up and sort of give some guidelines? I mean, that this issue affects everyone.
The judiciary has been, and public interest litigation has been very much a driving force behind at least efforts towards improving air quality and the environment, etc. And similarly, then the government has taken note of it and also led many initiatives, and it's been kind of a joint effort now. And any government knows right now that so much depends on the quality of its air and environment, etc.
Before we conclude, Asma, you also are Honorary Consul General of the Netherlands here in Lahore. What drew you to it? What are your responsibilities?
The Honorary Consul's the duties are to act as a bridge between the embassy and its their interests in Punjab, and similarly what Punjab's interests are, and how the Dutch embassy could be good, to be a liaison between them. And I think that in my experience at least, there are so many sectors in which the Dutch government is involved, for example, livestock and so many, there are so many big Dutch companies over here.
So essentially they wooed you to become their representative here. Very lucky for them. Both your boys have chosen to pursue their careers overseas and not to be in Pakistan. Now this is something that I continue to ask people, because I'm hoping that the audience of a show like mine is for young people, and they understand some of the issues that Pakistan faces today. And so many young people actually wish to go and live overseas. So how do you feel about that decision? I mean, of course, as a parent, you'd understand that, but is it something that you see when young people choose to go and live overseas? You see that as a loss for Pakistan, or do you see this as an opportunity for them to be, good ambassadors? You, of course, employ so many young people. It would affect you as well. I mean, if the brain drain kind of took a turn, where you wouldn't have, people who wish to sort of sit and work here. So how do you see that loss and gain perspective, especially as a mother and also as a professional?
I think that in my experience, what young people tell me now is that, our friends, our colleagues, our cohort is looking for jobs abroad, and sometimes they say, well, I said, are they pursuing, I asked them, are they pursuing legal careers abroad? And they said, no, they're just doing whatever they can get. And I think we need some more research into this. Are they really going abroad for the sake of it? Or there's not enough data out there to see what exactly are people going abroad for? Are they getting the opportunities that they're hoping for abroad? Are they just going abroad for the sake of being abroad? So I'd really like to know the reasons. And I think all these are such personal stories. I mean, some people are abroad by dint of circumstance. For example, my children are in the tech sector, and they find that the scope of what they were doing was so different. And they're sort of entrepreneurs in the tech sector, and that's why they are doing what they are doing. But what shapes the thinking of all young people seeking opportunity abroad is something that I'd be more interested to know about. Certainly, I think that if they were here, and for example, we had access to the most excellent resources, something that one can't deny. That of course we would like for every person to stay here and contribute here.
True, absolutely. This is not the kind of show where I would ask you for a parting message, but I'm really tempted. You described yourself as more as a professional than looking at yourself from the gender lens. But I mean, even from a position of privilege, you've been able to juggle both family and career really well. What's the message that you'd give to young women who are in that position? Of course, as young professionals or female sort of leaders generally say, your career growth and your family life kind of clashes with each other, and that happens only with females. So what message would you have for young ladies who have to deal with the pressures of a family and also the pressures of a career? What should they aim for?
I think one general piece of advice which I'd give to any young lawyer, regardless of whether they are a man or a woman, is that to stay in the field you need grit and consistency. You need to keep showing up, keep being there, keep being a voice of logic and reason and well-preparedness. And there is no replacement for that. There are no shortcuts in the legal profession, certainly in litigation. It's incremental. You add to it as you go along and as you see each success and build on your both successes and failures. As a woman, I think that you're very fortunate right now in which you have opportunities to work remotely. Some of the women associates who work with me also work remotely, and they keep their own hours so that they can balance, between home, children, work. So to optimize that, but also to keep a very clear focus on what your priorities are. I always say that you can achieve whatever you like, provided you know what you're giving up for it. If you're focused on what you want and you know what you're going to give up for it, then it makes it an easier choice.
Yeah, it's a trade-off.
So you have to prioritize, and I think that there should be clarity of thought about what your priorities are, whatever they may be. I'm not saying there's no right or wrong in this. You should be very clear about what your priorities are.
True. Thank you very much, Asma. Thank you very much for sitting down with me. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please do follow and like Context with Aasiya Riaz. Please also leave a feedback, not only about this program, but also who would you like me to talk to next and what should I ask them? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Aasiya.